All right. Nathan, can you hear me and can you talk?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hi, Anders.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm excited to see so many participants here.
Yeah, really, really exciting to welcome you all today to our first module, our first webinar for the digital marketing online course. So welcome everyone. Slide, Anders, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Cool. So welcome everybody. Quick introduction to myself. I'm Nathan. I am a program manager at Hyper Island. I manage our part-time masters in London, and I'm also a facilitator. I will be one of the co-facilitators on this online digital marketing course. I was a Hyper Island student about 7 years ago, before I went on to launch a couple of hardware startups, robotics and kids computer kits, sort of marketing role in both of those, before going on to facilitate and help others through the process. So welcome. Hoping that you'll be able to get what you need from the program, and that I'll be able to help you along as well. So yeah, thanks for joining this time. Anders, do you want to do a quick introduction, or shall we do that a bit more when you go into the presentation?
I can cover that a bit more as we get deeper into the presentation today.
Great.
But let's continue on today's agenda.
Great. So welcome. As I just said, so there's a bit of an introduction to me, one of your co-facilitators, and then in a moment we will have what we call Hyper Island check-in, which is a quick temperature gauge for how you are, where you are, who you are, what brings you here, etc. And we'll ask you to do that in the chat box, and then Anders and I will read them out, so we'll see where everyone is coming from. Then Anders will talk a bit about, give a presentation on digital marketing generally and learning digital marketing. So how do you begin? And really that's an introduction, not just to the module and the course, but also the topic. So a couple of topics in there. And then we'll start to explore all of your lovely questions. The webinar's questions channel on Slack has been really full. So thank you for all the questions, and we'll spend a large chunk of the webinar today exploring your questions and challenges, before we then check out and have any sort of slight summaries. Yeah, so that's a bit of an agenda today. So if we can move on to the check-in in that case.
Yes.
So
I just want to start by asking, does everybody see the screen and the presentation? Maybe you can tell me that, Nathan, as well.
Oh, yeah, I can see the, yeah, I mean, it's fine from lots of yeses, lots of very quick yeses.
Wow, fantastic.
Great. So if we could get, if you want to check in, say, obviously your name, where you are, and how you feel today. And then we'll read a few of them out. We'll see see how far we've got people from around the world, so we can see the span. Ingrid Buffalo from Alicante, Spain. She works at an EU agency. Sarah Gomez saying hi, friends. We've got Anna Ginria from, she's saying hi, everyone. Scroll down a bit more. You guys are moving fast. Hi, Babo. Hi, Babo from Amsterdam. We've got Amit, Alejandro from Peru, Michaela sending love from Stockholm, Constanza from Buenos Aires, Daniela from Austria. Hi, Daniela. Tone from Norway here. Gustav from Sweden, Dimitri from Belarus, Minsk, Ying, hi Ying from Paris, Mikhail Hansen, wow, lots and lots and lots and lots. Chris from Peterborough, Ein from Vienna, Austria, John Gerardo from Bolivia, Anna from Stockholm, Sophia from Stockholm, Iska from Kuala Lumpur, Petra from, based in the Netherlands. Let's skip for a few more. Gaz from Manchester, great to hear you're feeling fine. Katrina from Stockholm, Hugo from Amsterdam, Pavel from Prague, Jojin from Saigon, hello over there, Amit from New Delhi, Suzanne from the Netherlands, Christina, she's fine sitting at home. She's worked with Ericsson but left her company a few months ago and looking for new opportunities, looking for change like many of us are. Matteo from Stockholm, Lotten from Gothenburg, and Rebecca from Brazilian Portuguese based in Singapore. Wow, that was a nice long list.
Fantastic.
Everyone for going for that check-in with a lot of enthusiasm. Really, really appreciate it. I hope I got through most of them. If I didn't catch your name as I was scrolling through, a big gusty hello to you, and thank you for joining us. Cool. Shall we move on? A bit of information about the course. So as you know, a lot of the course is based on weekly learning kits, and those weekly learning kits are kind of a starting point for your own research, and include the challenges that we set you each week. The challenges are the experiential learning element. So instead of just reading various pages, reading the pages that we supply you with, you have to go and experience it, and that's really how you, reflecting on that is how you embed the learning. Alongside the weekly learning kits, we'll provide you with some webinars, as we are here now, which go a bit deeper into the particular topic. Anders will be giving you his personal perspective in a few moments on learning digital marketing and digital marketing more generally. And we also give you the opportunity to ask questions. So that can take the form of something slightly deeper if you have a particular personalized question about the topic that week. As mentioned, the challenges give you a chance to experience the topic of that particular week in your organization. So we ask you to submit the challenges in the form of a reflection journal. A lot of Hyper Island, as Anders will talk about in a moment, is about not just taking the content and experiencing it, but reflecting and thinking about how you can change your behavior for next time. So it's all about improving. And we ask you to submit your reflection journals by Sunday. So the new weekly learning kit goes up early in the week, and then the reflection journal submitted by Sunday. But as we go along, Anders and myself will be giving written feedback for each of your reflection journals. But it'd be really helpful as well if each of you guys look at your reflection journals and look at everyone else's, because that's where a lot of the experience will be coming from. So don't hesitate to give feedback to others, constructive feedback to others as well, because there will be a huge source of information, not just from yourself and our feedback, but from others as well. Moving on to the different kinds of challenges we have. So to allow for different ways of tackling this course, we've split the challenges into tactical and strategic, where the tactical challenges are a bit more hands-on with the tools. So it might be more about specific numbers or funnels, and really grinding the analytics out. The strategic arm is a bit more of an overview, a bit more visionary. And you don't have to tackle any one of these challenges throughout the whole course. You could tackle the tactical challenge in week 1 because it appeals to you. You could then go and do the strategic challenge for week 2. So always read both challenges and choose which one or both you would like to tackle, because it might be that there's enough learning from both challenges that you might get something good from both. So don't be afraid to do that either. We're more than happy to give feedback on both. Think about how you want what you'll get the most from, and go about it in that way. So one of them or both, and don't feel afraid to change as you go, depending on your needs. And thinking about getting what you give out of the course. Anders is going to take over to a bit more, tell you a bit more about how you can get the most out of the program.
Yeah, exactly. This is exactly where I'm going to start today's talk, actually. So I'm very happy to sort of see all of you, since I can actually see some of you at least. Just some data, so you know, we are 115 participants in this course. As far as I've been able to tell, it's spread out over 12 different time zones. But we got the furthest away is in UTC -7, and it goes all the way to UTC +8. So it's a pretty big spread, and that means that, you know, this course is actually tailored to a lot of different needs, and to make it your course, it's your own responsibility to make sure that you get out as much as possible from us, but mainly from your fellow co-participants. There is a saying at Hyper where you use the illustration of a tennis ball, and you say, the harder you throw, the bigger the bounce. And basically it's the same as saying you get out what you put in. What I would like to add to that, and also adding to what Nathan has been saying, is that if you want more, you need to give more. So the learning kits and webinars, they are sort of our foundation. The challenges, they are there to give you some experience. Your reflection journal is for you and for us to review what has been done. But to really get the most out of this course, what you should be doing is reading what others are doing, give feedback, and then hopefully you will get feedback. So it's actually up to you to sort of role model that behavior yourself. And as you might be aware by this point, Hyper is following something that is called experiential learning, or learning by doing. So what we are asking you to do is go through a learning process of acquiring knowledge through learning new skills and reflecting on what behaviors and attitudes that you get from different experiences and from direct experiences. And this is a widely used learning approach. It has a number of different names, and at Hyper we split it up into this KSA sort of levels of it. And we don't need to go so much into depth of that, but the way I see it, it's a 4-step process. So you start with a concrete experience or a test. Second, you recollect and you sort of review what you went through and repeat it to yourself. Third, you draw some conclusions from it and hopefully get some new insights by reflecting on it. And finally, you learn something from it and reapply it as a new hypothesis. And hopefully that brings you back to the beginning. And this is sort of the approach that Hyper Island is built on. You don't just need to take my word for it, actually. This is a core answer from one of Hyper's founders, Jonathan Briggs, where he said exactly this, that Hyper is all about learning by doing, projects set by real clients, in this case, your reality, and facilitated reflection on what's being learned. And that's what we will be doing in the learning groups. But a little bit about myself. So this type of thinking is kind of how my learning and life has been shaped, but I didn't know it until I attended Hyper, that this was actually what I was applying to my life. I had sort of been driven by curiosity to different lines of life, and what I have in my personality is that I always wanted to sort of be the one connecting the dots, but I was studying all over the place. I've been studying film, I've been studying city planning, physics, and then in 2013 I found Hyper, joined them, and went to a program called Digital Data Strategist. And from there on, it's not like I've had one single title or a single career way forward, but I would say the overall sort of thing that sticks with me is the strategy part. So most often I have that as part of my job description in some sense. And what we will be talking about today is just an intro to digital marketing. So what we're going to focus on is sort of some of the drivers that are important to understand, and what are the differences to before, or if we compare it to traditional marketing, as well as touch upon some of the topics that we also have in the learning kit in terms of USPs, UVPs, and user journeys. So put very simply, as we say in the learning kit, all marketing is about getting people to do something. You want them to do something, feel something, want something, usually so that they then end up buying a specific something. And this hasn't really changed. People are still being persuaded through the same sort of cognitive mechanisms, but mostly by their feelings. But before, marketing used to be much more inaccessible, much more expensive. It was rather opaque, non-transparent, and non-measurable. Also, it was heavily monopolized by media agencies. And these days, we have much more content. Display advertising is by no means dead, but it's displayed over much more channels. Distribution is relatively cheap. And this forces us as marketers to focus much more. And we need to start thinking that we shouldn't be convincing the skeptics of our products, but instead tailor ourselves towards people that like what we do and what we stand for. So what we should really be aiming for as digital marketers is control and hyper targeting, being really, really deep into personalization and finding where our audience are and finding them in the moment when it's most relevant, but also be designing our content towards different platforms and different segments in some cases. And one example of this is actually understanding this commercial that I don't know if you will actually hear the sound or not, but it's a video with the keyword "ship my pants," and it's about that Kmart allowed you to start shipping products to your local Kmart, so you could order online or in the store and then have anything from Kmart's vast catalog be able for pickup, basically. And this was both done as a video ad online and then transferred to a TV commercial. And one thing that I think you should understand about the differences between digital marketing and traditional marketing is that everything is not automatically translatable. So something that works on YouTube does not necessarily work as a TV ad. I mean, this shouldn't be so surprising, because if we look at YouTube and Facebook videos, especially for AdWords, it's all about the first 5 seconds. You know, it's after 5 seconds that you get charged for whether a person saw the ad or not. It's a cost per view model, and a view happens after 5 seconds. And you also have the fact that it's people can often have the ability to press skip or to opt out of the ad entirely. And you really have to work to make that work. You need to be testing out the first 5 seconds to find what really keeps people's attention going for longer than that. And then you actually don't really need to care so much about how much longer than the first 5 seconds you go. The most important are those first 5 seconds, because then you can actually retarget them as well. So at the same time as this part is being true about digital video AdWords, you should remember that TVCs and traditional marketing don't operate completely outside your digital strategy. Actually, what you should always be striving for is that keywords that appear in your other advertising, in your display advertising physically, or in your TVCs, it actually needs to be picked up on your digital efforts. So when people see something, they put in the keywords that they saw out in the real world or on their TV, you need to make sure that you are there to pick up whatever search intent that is raising. And from this video that I was talking about, here is a very clear spike of how people started searching for exactly "ship my pants" after this advertisement had first been displayed on YouTube and then later on TV. And this is a very clear spike for just "ship my pants." Actually, for a short period, "ship my pants" was generating much more search interest than Kmart as a whole. So more people were putting it into the top of their Chrome browser, for example, and more people were putting it into Google. And that's why you need to make sure that the phrases that you use in video are also where you can point towards a channel of your choice where you can rank. So in my example here, I actually want to point out the fact that we have a second spike as well, and that happened when they kicked in some PR, where they were creating a story about the story, and media was picking up the fact that Kmart had this many YouTube views because they were doing this advertisement. And that's sort of the PR side, which is also a form of traditional marketing. And these days, you should be thinking about that as well. How do you sell in the story about the story? So that at the point where you have something that is successful, you have somewhere to go to tell the press that, oh, we actually are this successful. And by doing that, you get the second and really big boost of getting people in. All right, so the biggest difference to traditional marketing is actually understanding the fact that digital marketing, it's all about the data. Whenever you do something online, you click, you scroll, you view, you pause, all of this is stored in some database somewhere. And this is data we as marketers can be using. So we use it to tailor segments, we use it to retarget, and we use it to measure who we have reached and when. And all of this are insights that are out there to be utilized. So you taking this course hopefully are taking your first step, if you haven't already, towards becoming much better at digital marketers just by caring about the data. And luckily, as we will show you throughout this course, most of this is not done by any single human, but by using tools, platforms to figure out what the algorithms are showing people. And speaking about algorithms, here's a picture of Google search ranking, probably the world's most famous sorting algorithm. And another important part about digital marketing has to do with transparency. So Google might not tell us exactly how the algorithms is sorting things, but we sure know it's important to be there. And we also know that we should preferably be in the top for our keywords. And Google will at least tell us which keywords that have brought people to our landing pages. And then everyone can these days sort of have access to marketing channels and buy advertising. And it really is anyone or everyone. There's very few restrictions there. In that sense, I would say that digital marketing is much more democratized, even though we have somewhat of a duopoly in terms of where the money actually ends up. But the fact that more tools are available than ever before, and you no longer need to go through big media agencies, that's a big difference to traditional marketing. And these channels also, they are constantly changing, as you probably know. So what we need to do is that we need to be changing as well. And how do we keep up? Well, by trying things out. And that's what we're trying to push in this, one of the elements that we're trying to push throughout this whole course. Try things out. We need to understand what impact and consequences the algorithms have, but we don't necessarily need to understand exactly how they are working. Just what are the outcomes of changes at them. And to do that, you need to be constantly trying things out and testing things out and retargeting your target group and figuring out how can you segment things further. That actually should sound a lot like the experiential learning curve that I was talking about before. Experimental learning is very much the same way. So again, we tie into the format of this course. All right, so a little bit about UVP and USB, because we normally get a lot of questions about what is what and what are the differences between these two. So the unique selling proposition, well, to me, this is what sets you apart from the competition. Whereas the UVP, the unique value proposition, is what differentiates your product. So it's sort of operating on two quite different levels. The USP is much more about sort of making you stand out as a brand and as a company. And it's something that should go through maybe your whole existence as a company. Whereas the offer, the UVP, you can adapt according to exactly what product you're offering. And you have a little bit more room for doing tactics and experimentation on it. This is sort of what I want to push here is that it should run through your whole marketing concept, your USP, or actually your whole company concept, whereas the UVP can be more focused on a single campaign, but then be the same throughout your channels and throughout your offers. And finally, it's the USP is supposed to have a much larger appeal. And one important thing to remember there is that it's actually okay if it's not appealing to everyone. It should be okay that it's scaring some people off. You will not be able to please everyone, especially not if you want to differentiate yourself from your competition. Whereas the UVP consistency is very good, but test things out for a while before you settle on what your next UVP is going to be. This is something that you can be running messaging tests on to see what is it that is appealing to my target audience today. And when you set up a new goal for a new target audience, you try out what UVP should we be running for towards these guys. So that's just very short about some of the differences, since that question often comes up, and I've seen it on Slack this time around as well. And then a little bit about user journeys. So user journeys is about the full sort of journey and the full customer journey and how we support each step. So it's more of a simplified worldview for us to be able to better structure our different marketing efforts. And the next coming weeks we will talk a lot about this. But we need to start somewhere. And in my opinion, you should start with your product. So you should start with your product and what experience that you are providing your users when you want them to interact with you. And the easiest way to do this is, to look for a keyword or use a keyword that a potential customer would use to find you, put that into Google, and then follow the funnel and click through all the steps to understand. But a more simplified way of looking at this, or a more general way of looking at this, is by looking at this type of customer journey. So this is a type of funnel that happens to be the way that we have structured this course. So today we're focusing on sort of just introducing the full picture of things. And then as we go week over week, we will look into attraction and activation, conversion, and then retention, which hopefully just leads to more conversions or back to the activation or attraction phases again, and keeping your customers interested. And what I like to push personally is that outside sort of the customer journey, you need to think about what type of content you are serving at these different levels. So more than just separating content into top, mid, and low level content, or activation, attraction, conversion content, you should think about that you let the content be targeted towards these different stages in the funnel. So week over week, we will provide you with examples and common practices of how you can craft content like that, so that you can attract, activate, and convert your audience. But the first goal of creating these types of content will always be to sort of maximize reach, so that you actually raise an audience. And hopefully that awareness is sticky enough so that they remember your brand. And that's why we call it attraction and not just awareness. But it is brand awareness building. And there are other funnels looking like this, and with slightly different words. There's no reason for us choosing this funnel over some other one. It more has to do with the fact that we can, for people that are completely new to the concept of content journeys, it makes so much more sense to build on customer journeys that I think everybody has seen at some point in their lives for the past 25 years. That's been a main topic of marketing. But talking about the content journey and structuring it like this is going to make it much more easy for us to sort of naturally go through the different stages of what type of content you should be creating. And also in the end, hopefully you feel like we provided a full-on picture on how your digital marketing could look from a strategy perspective. This is something that we will touch upon more. And actually that was all about I was going to go through for now. So I'm seeing that there's lots of questions coming in. So let's pick out some. And spend the last half hour on answering a lot of them. Can you hear me, Nathan?
Yes. So we got a quick question from Anagia about giving an example of the USP UVP difference, and there's I sort of shared a link, but I just thought I'd read it out because it's quite a nice example. In the link, they talk about the UVP being inward facing and the USP being outward facing. So in terms of Volvo, as an example, the USP, the outward facing one, is, and this was a couple of years ago, this link, but I just had a quick little hunt down, Volvo for life. So it's articulating that Volvo will be your lifelong car and save your life. So there's something quite clever going on there. But the UVP, the sort of the more inward facing one, more to do with so perhaps the marketing inwardly. It's about the mindset of all the engineers to work and deliver enhancements on the car, and that has become the North Star upon which everything is evaluated. So that's the kinds of safety features element that the customer will feel safer and those kinds of things. So one facing inward and one facing outward is a nice way to think about it as well. So hopefully that Volvo example makes it a little bit clearer, at least.
I can provide another example if you're interested, and that is for Avis, the car rental company. They, for a couple of years, or for a bunch of years, actually had a very strong selling point in that they said that we work harder. And basically they weren't the biggest rental company at the time, so they had realized that they had to be working harder, so they made that into their main sort of concept and strategy. And then we try harder, thank you. And basically that could then tailor their different UVPs as well.
Cool. We've got a question from Minka. For the first week, homework, the reflection journal, what a user journey for a new employee. We've got quite a few open positions, and I'd quite like to see what we can do with digital recruitment. What do you think? Yeah, I think that sounds like a perfectly good user journey. Seeing how many clicks you're getting for the recruitment for the open positions. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good way to go. Should we jump into Slack then and see what questions we have? Some KPIs, this is from Gerardo, some KPIs are difficult to understand to other areas in my department, and we assume that they are reporting the right KPIs. My question is, in your experience, you have to manage 2 reports of results, one intern and one more general.
Yeah, so in my experience, back from when I was working within the publishing industry, I was working in a data lab sort of project where we were not the first, but the most dedicated team within the publishing house to sort of be digging into all the types of numbers they had. And one thing that became clear fairly soon was that depending on where in the building we were reporting, they wanted very different numbers, and that's very different KPIs to very different people. Sales are more interested in in numbers that can be more directly translated into money, whereas the people writing articles are much more interested in knowing if they're reaching the right audience. So when it comes to KPIs, I think what you need to find you need to find out what is relevant to which people. In my case, it was a very big organization, so we ended up doing a lot of different types of reports for a lot of different people. And whenever we were doing a big projects on trying to sort of get all the different numbers into one report, those reports just ended up being bigger and bigger and bigger until the point when nobody was reading them. So trying to get it all into one is usually not a good way to do, but instead think of it like your different target audiences online. So you actually tailor your reports, automate them to the extent that it's possible, and then you give people what is most relevant to them. But what is the right KPI? Well, that is a very tricky question. It has a lot of moving parts, it can be anything to the number of newsletter subscribers if you're focusing on growing your lead base, or it can be the number of people that watch your ad if you're more into a brand awareness stage. It really depends on what you're focusing on at the moment. So, it's all about being relevant, just like everything else is with digital marketing, I'm afraid.
Cool. We've got a question on Slack from Michaela. How much is digital programs and tools and software and those things, and how much is marketing in strategy and thinking of the visions in thinking about digital marketing? And what do you say about skills as a digital marketer? So I think in many ways that kind of represents the split of our tactical versus strategic split of the challenges. I think it's a bit of both. It just depends, sort of linking back to Anders' previous answer, it sort of depends on your purpose. It depends on your goal and what you're looking to achieve. And if it is more of a tactical type thing or a more broad strategic overview, if there a branding or a marketing element. But I would sort of see what that I think that question translates quite directly into looking at the challenges of the weekly learning kits and seeing which kinds of challenges feel most applicable to your situation and your business. How do you feel about that question, Anders?
No, I agree that I think strategy-wise, it's not necessarily that things have changed that much as they have as for the tactical side of things. But at the same time, there's no loss of different tools to be trying out if you're going down the tactical, and there's lots of insights to be drawn from digital measurements and data if you're more strategic. I think that the basis of convincing people to do something is still the same. As I said, we still feel the same things that we were feeling thousands and thousands of years ago, mainly. There are other things changing, like the attention span of people, which actually seems to be getting shorter and shorter, not just at emotional level or a gut feeling level, but this is actually something that is being measured by scientists doing the same test year over year, and it seems like our attention span is decreasing. So that is something that is changing with people, and it's not so easy to say what is what. Is it the way that we are communicating that has caused that, or is it something else that's going on in our environment? I don't know, but that's something that's worth keeping in mind.
Great. Let's see. In your view, this is a question from Carl. In your view, what skills and roles are essential to building a well-functioning digital marketing unit with an eye towards retail/e-commerce? In other words, what capabilities are essential to get going in digital marketing for an e-commerce business, even at a very early stage? And what are some of the good strategies to get co-workers on board a new digital marketing strategy, even if they're not familiar with it?
I love this question, to be honest. I think it's great. It's super tricky, though. It depends of course, on what kind of resources and how big a team and how much time and so on and so forth. But I can sort of push on something that we will actually come back to at the very end of this course, when we talk about how to implement a lot of this stuff into your organization. And then there's a methodology that one of our speakers like to push about grouping up as three people because it's small enough for everyone to feel a big share of responsibility, but not so small that you cannot take any decisions, which might end up, if you're only two people, and one is away, you cannot form any decisions. But if you're three but only two show up, you are still in sort of a majority and can form decisions. So three people that all are fairly broad, since when we're talking about this topic, it's not, if you don't have a ton of resources that you could be spending on getting the best consultant out there, it's much better to be versatile and being sort of hungry for learning new things, like all of you that are attending this course obviously are. Otherwise you wouldn't step into this new world, or partially new world for some of you. So being open for new experiences, being what Mia likes to call T-shaped individuals, where you have some kind of strength, but mainly go for having knowing a lot about knowing some things by a lot of things, and then I more look to personality than to specific skill sets on top of that. So I structure it into what I like to call hustlers, thinkers, and doers, where the doers are people that like to sort of work through a list, and they come in at 8 o'clock and they leave at 5 o'clock, and they have their sort of task list, and as long as they have that task list, they're super happy and they do everything, and you are amazed at how much they actually manage to do in a day. Whereas the thinker, is more leaning back and having the big vision, and sort of is the one that eventually connects all the dots and figure out, like, oh, but by the way, we have this awesome target group that's really cheap to reach. Why aren't we focusing all our efforts on doing that until that's sort of saturated? And they are the big strategizers that manage to do that. But both of these personality types are not gonna get away for a very long time unless they also have the hustler. And the hustler is the person that can actually communicate what they're doing to everybody else. So these other two that are more introverts, they need a hustler to sort of be selling what they are doing and figuring out. And that's my opinion on it.
Yep, I agree there. I think also one of the challenges in the first week in speaking to your co-workers about digital marketing, I think that will start to reveal quite a lot of the capabilities or the areas that you need support in. And I often think of the phrase, a conversation is the first unit of change. And that's why we put speaking to your colleagues in week one, so that you begin to sort of see what are the needs within your organization, what are the opportunities, where can you start to use the course really, and use the various challenges to support as you go through the course. So starting to talk to your colleagues about what they think the organization needs, what capabilities it has, where other things can be supported is definitely the first port of call, I would say. Should we jump back into, are there any questions on the Zoom itself? Talk about, let's head back to Slack in that case. If possible, so this is a question from Pavel. If possible, in more detail, please try to cover in your point of view, paid, owned, and earned, and their interaction in customer journey / funnels, e.g. related to social media that are mentioned in both owned and earned. When talking about attracting traffic, isn't it more about their paid role? I think we'll talk a bit more about this in detail next week, but yeah, Anders, if you have anything off the top of your head that relates to this question.
Well, I think we will talk more about it next week, and then even a bit more the week after that. So it's definitely something that we will come back to. It's paid can definitely be worth it, and there are simple calculations you can make for yourself to see if it's worth it. But let's not dig deeper into that right now, to be honest.
Cool. Where else? Let's jump around to a couple of other questions on Slack. Have you got any other questions you want to dig into, Anders, while I'm sifting through? Have you got any other particular questions that you'd like to dig into?
Well, I could answer some of the support questions that I'm seeing coming in here. So when will the challenges be given? They are in the learning kit every week. So if you go to the resources page that we link to in the announcement channel on Slack, you can always sort of go through to the learning kit and see the challenges. They are introduced in the beginning of the week so that you can sort of have them in the back of your mind, and also post any questions that are about them before the Wednesday webinars. So this week, the strategic and tactical tracks are sort of, they have one in common, which is talk to your colleagues, and then it separates into one being more focused on nailing down concrete goals, and the other one doing a user journey and optionally coming up with your company's USP or UVP.
Cool. I've seen a couple of questions about the model we're using.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to quickly say that the answer for that is really in the, so the model being, attraction, activation, retention, conversion, retention, etc. And why we've sort of scheduled it like that. And that's actually addressed in the first learning kit. So towards the, I think it's in section 3, sort of what's our focus. We sort of list a few of them, Google's Zero Moment of Truth, the R Pirate model, Pirate Metrics, Lean Analytics. So there are lots of different models out there. But as we say in the learning kit, we don't believe that any of these are objectively right or the best. They can all sort of serve for different purposes as and when you need, but they all have some value. And the reason that we're going with a sort of a blend is so that at certain points you can sort of dip into the more strategic models, or if you want to really get heavy on the tactical, you could get quite into the Pirate Metrics model. So it's important that you don't sort of focus just on one. We talk quite a lot at Hyper Island about being a critical thinker, and being a critical thinker means that you don't just you think critically about the models and the tools that you're given. So not just taking any one model and thinking, okay, this is how it is. The more you can look at various tools and see and choose in your approach how you would and when you would use them for different situations, that's sort of more aligned with being a critical thinker. So have a look at the various models, and the reason why we sort of blend them together is very much so that we can get the best out of all of them, because they are all a bit different. Hopefully that sort of answers the questions about various models. Any questions?
Yeah, do we receive one-on-one feedback on our challenges? Yes, you will receive feedback from me and Nathan.
Yeah, so we will, for each reflection journal, we will give some individual feedback based on what we read.
We'll try to keep it short, and you don't have to. We've seen people do. People usually do all kinds of presentation. What I like to see is that you've gone beyond just reporting what you've done, and can show that you've actually started thinking about how it made you sort of think, and what you could be doing differently next time, and what you were learning. So abstract yourself away from it a little bit, and that actually makes it easier for us to sort of be pointing in the next direction as well. Because otherwise I feel like, at least for me, when I give my first round of feedback, people might be a bit shut down by the fact that I mostly fire away a lot of questions trying to point them in the next direction. So that's something for me to keep in mind as well. But it's if you already sort of take that step of abstracting it for yourself, that's going to be worth a lot to both you and me.
And that's why we call them reflection journals as well. We ask that you try and, as well as doing the content and thinking about the marketing element, this is about learning. And reflection, as Anders said earlier, is a really key part of that, and understanding what you've done and how it's affected you and what you're going to do differently is really key. So that's as an explanation of why we call them a reflection journal. So do try and include that as we go. Rosanna has asked, can you recap on lean analytics, is it essentially making sure we focus on the data that matters, vanity versus action. But yeah, I would say that's a pretty good summary. If you think about what our lean startup is, lean being, the smallest possible test to get rid of your assumptions, then it's something quite similar. What's the smallest possible test for a message, a particular line of messaging, or something like that. Gerardo, where was experiential learning all your life? It's always been there, from the moment you learnt to speak. It's always been there. So it's something that we see as quite natural, and that we all have. But it's being conscious about it, I think, is the key thing, and that's why we talk about reflection quite a lot, and thinking about how you learn, not just what you're learning. Cool. Any other questions? Should we have a quick look at the webinar questions?
I'm scrolling through the chat at the moment, and yes, you will have access to the slides afterwards. We will publish that as a PDF together with the recording, basically.
Yeah, the video and the slides will go up as two separate links on the resources channel. So keep an eye on that. We've already shared that on the announcements channel. So Anders posted that a couple of days ago, I think. So yeah, just keep your eye on that. Robin, I run a digital recruitment company, provide distance positions for candidates. Every link all the way is digital for me, for my candidates, my main task. My main task and goal is to get more people to view my website and apply for the positions. I'm new in digital marketing and happy to hear what you think is most important for me to learn. What should I focus on? For me, I would focus on each week as it happens, and thinking about what you're learning each week. Before then, once you've been through the program, I would then sort of take a step back and almost sort of go through it then again in your own time, because each week will be going quite quickly, really. Mm-hmm. So the key is probably to keep going, in fact, and to do lots of small tests, rather than sort of going deep on one particular aspect, because going from the challenges can happen quite quickly. So I would make sure that you hand in all 6 reflection journals, not only so that you can get the certificate at the end, but also so that you understand the whole process and you understand the whole journey, because it's at that point you can really sort of look back and understand where you might like to go a bit deeper, where the most important things might be. So in that vein, reflection, weirdly enough, is probably one of the things that I would try and repeat.
I would add to that, Robin and Nathan, basically that you should look through your whole user and customer journey as a whole, and then as you start going through it, ask your existing customers where are the hurdles at the moment, and sort of find where is the threshold maybe a bit too high today. So it's too early to say sort of what you should be focusing on. It all depends. But if we go back to the model once more, it's not good enough to just be sort of being super attractive and getting people to have their eyes on you if you can't activate them. And it's not enough to sort of be only doing activation and be retargeting the people that you are already reaching and being stuck in the conversion game. Then you will just be sort of spending money on playing around with people and not getting any new customers at all in. So you need to think about the whole customer journey. It's not about any one step, but there's usually one in particular which you can improve that will make a big difference. But it all depends on how it looks today. So as we go through the course, really reflect upon what the different stages look like on your journey or for your customers today.
Cool. In that case, we've probably got a few minutes left. we got any more questions, or should we head to a checkout? Do you think?
What's your suggestions for brand new website to attract traffic? Yeah, this also depends. Unfortunately, it depends on what type of website it is and what the intended purpose of that site is. You could be going for some kind of long con organic growth by becoming the best at ranking for a lot of different keywords, but that usually takes a lot of effort and a lot of content creation.
So looking into the questions, does AdWords cost anything to start? Yes, I believe you do have to add some money to start advertising on it. You can do as little as you want, as I think it's cost per click. So
yeah, what you can actually usually do is that you should Google free AdWords credit, basically. And hopefully you don't end up on some kind of mischievous site, but Google has for the past years been running campaigns where they offer 50 to 100 euros or dollars of free AdWords for your first campaign. So it's all about getting you into the AdWords game, basically. So you can usually find these campaigns. I'm currently being heavily targeted because I started using a different browser. So now they think this guy is into marketing and he's into AdWords. So they're trying to convert me without realizing that I already have a few accounts. So those campaigns are usually out there to get you started. It doesn't cost anything to have an account and use the other tools in AdWords. So that's another thing to keep in mind, that it's a lot of good tools supplied by Google in AdWords, like for example the keyword planner, which gives you an estimate on the weekly amounts of search for different keywords. That's very good, and also it can help you to come up with new keywords. So it's something that I use when I'm pitching new clients, for example. I go in and look at how big is the competition currently for these keywords, and how big is the search interest, and then if possible you look at how many people actually end up on that website to figure out if they're doing well enough or not in ranking for their own search terms or for branded search terms for themselves. So that doesn't cost anything, but you can usually create your very first campaign if you don't have an AdWords account before using Google credit.
Cool. One last question from, oh, there's lots more. No, one last question, I think, from Rebecca. She asks, do you think a small business is okay to take advantage of the course, or should I get a greater business with different media? No, it's fine to use a small business. You'll be able to experiment and those sorts of things. So if there's a brand, if there's a presence at all, then that's fine, and you can drive traffic there. I think that might be 2 minutes to go, or we have time for, even though the questions are flying in. Do ask the questions on Slack, as I'm sure some of the answers, not only us, Anders and I, but some of your course colleagues will be able to answer as well. So yeah, do keep the questions coming on Slack. But I think because we're 1 minute away from the time, we're going to go for a checkout and a couple of reminders if you want to head on down. So checking out, similarly, just sort of saying how you're feeling, having gone through the webinar before leaving on to next week. So if ever any of you do want to head in the chat, I can start with the checkout. I'm really excited to see all of your questions, but I'm also really excited to see some of your answers as well. It's really nice to see some of you helping each other out, and long may the energy continue. Checking out.
All right, and I will check out saying that I hope I didn't sort of overrun you. I know that there is a lot of stuff to be taking in this first week. We are both providing you with a ton of links in the learning kit in itself. Uh, I know that there's a lot of activity going on Slack, so it takes a little bit of time to get used to. And now I sort of went through this as a bulldozer, just sort of showing you this very overall concept. So I hope you're not feeling overwhelmed, and if you are, don't worry, you will manage. Personally, I feel pretty good and happy, and hope that you will feel just as excited to join next week's webinar when we sort of start to actually dig into these different levels that we've been talking about in the customer and content journey.
Great. Lots of nice comments coming in. Thank you guys, really appreciate that. Glad it was helpful for so many of you. And we're excited about the next one as well. I think there are a couple of reminders.
Yes.
Just to say, reflection journals in by Sunday. So if you could upload them as PDFs, that would make it much easier for us to give you feedback on them. So don't forget, to upload them as a PDF on Sunday. Discuss insights and questions in your learning groups. So look at each other's reflection journals, answer other people's questions, and you'll get more out of it. And continue to discuss and comment and give feedback and provoke and all of the above. So just keep the energy up, really. Thank you for doing that so far. And apart from that, thank you, and we will see you on Slack.
See you everyone on Slack.
See you soon. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.